Hi, my name is Cam.
And I'm Dr. Liv, and this is Scandalous Sunday.
We are talking about turn offs and turn ons today. So we were kind of inspired by that book. It's called Come As You Are. I know that Livia's read it and I just got it. So we wanted to kind of expand a little bit more on that and then also just talk about just turn off and turn offs in general, especially maybe in our lives or what it plays in our lives.
Yeah, and the book is Come As You Are by Dr. Nagoski, Nagoski. And I'll put that in the show notes as well, but definitely recommend it. I feel like that was pretty life-changing for me, and then for a lot of the women that I know have read it, and it's just kind of blown their minds on how the human body works and like how our interests work. So definitely recommend it. But yeah, we're gonna dive into a little bit of that, but then also just kind of our own, thoughts on turn-ons and turn-offs, because I feel like we were like just talking about this earlier, right? Is that I was talking about hormonally we tend to, like, women and men tend to be interested in sex at different times. And I was saying, like, I am all about evening sex. I do not really that interested in morning sex unless I'm on vacation. And like you're saying, you're the opposite. And
Yeah, I'm
so,
morning. Yeah, I like morning time when I wake up. That way I can just, I don't know if it's just like I feel less stressed. And I don't have to deal with the stress like of whatever I'm doing that day. So it's just kind of like I wake up and I'm refreshed and I just want to do it right then because like in the evening I'm just more tired and I just want to like sleep and watch TV and relax. And then yeah, my partner is like more of an afternoon person, so it's like definitely something to navigate.
yeah. See, that's so funny because like my reasoning is exactly the same. It's just like different time of day, because in the morning I feel like I get out of bed and I'm up and going. I've got my to-do list. I'm ready to like conquer the day. And so like I just can't stop and have sex and be present because my brain's already going, which is why I like evenings. So I love that we have the same reasonings. It's just kind of,
Switch.
yeah, different
Yeah,
times.
I don't know. It's like because I'm a huge procrastinator, but also like I really don't like to think about what I have to do in the day unless I'm like there and I have to. Like otherwise, like I instantly get stressed. So I think in the morning when I wake up, it's like either watching TV or doing something like I don't know that just like takes my mind off of it. And I think just like maybe sex is another way to take my mind off whatever I have to deal with later on in the day.
Makes sense. That's because you're in human design. You're a generator, a manifesting generator, I
A
think.
generator, just generator.
Generator.
Hmm.
Yeah. So because like generators, I think they wear out more towards the end of the day. Like that's something that you have to really be conscious of. And so that kind of makes sense just within human design. Um,
Yeah.
Thrown in a little human design action there.
Yeah. I mean, definitely at the end of the day, I'm just like, I just want to sleep and or just like relax and drink my glass of wine and eat my dinner and like not, turn my brain off. So it makes sense that like, yeah, evening is just not as appealing to me, I guess, because it's just like it doesn't feel like a thing to wind down on. I don't know. Sex doesn't feel like something to wind down on. It's like to get you going, I feel.
That's so funny because I'm the opposite. I'm like, sex is totally like my like de-stress, calm down, relax kind of thing. It's not my like I don't like I have a hard time going back to work and focusing after sex. Um,
Mhm.
so it is. I think that's something that you have to be aware of, and I think that's a lot of what Dr. Nagoski says in the book too. Is that being aware of what your turn-ons and turn-offs are, because obviously they're, just with the two of us talking, they're so different for each person, regardless of gender and preferences and whatnot. And so one of the most important things is just being aware of what you do and do not like, when you like to have sex and not, and just understanding yourself is really the most important part, I would feel like.
Yeah, it was definitely like in the first few chapters, she was talking about just understanding like sex and your preferences and how and looking at it like scientifically, like how they looked at it just in general, like pleasure wise, but then like actually going into like the mental things that sex brings, just like how you think about it. But that was something that came later. Like it wasn't really at the beginning, it wasn't really how people thought about sex. It was just mainly just scientific, like how the brain worked while you were, doing sex. But now actually understanding the psychology behind what you like and what gets you going, and just kind of that progression to that point that now I think now we are talking about like what it means to like have sex in the morning, why you like to, or why you like doing this in bed or something like that, just like understanding that, the thought process behind all of that.
Yeah, and giving yourself permission. I mean, that's true for everything in life, right? But like giving yourself permission to be okay with who you are and what you like and what you don't like. If you, want to have sex in the morning but not in the evenings, or vice versa, like there's nothing right or wrong. There's not like a right or wrong way to do it, or when to have it, or like it's all just whatever feels right to you, that's the right thing for you. And understanding that, because I think sometimes as women, not sometimes, a lot of times as women, we like to make ourselves wrong for stuff, especially when it comes to like sex or like just things that go on in our bodies physically, because we like to compare ourselves to everybody else around us and be like, wait, she likes to have sex in the mornings, so I should like to have sex in the mornings, right? And it's the same with your likes and dislikes in bed too, right? Just because somebody likes kink doesn't mean you have to like kink.
Right.
So
Right. Who kind of turned you on to this book, the Come As You Are book?
That's a good question. It's been a long time. I think I'm trying to think if it was I'm one of my mentors and dear friends, Jackie Carr, who's also, it's funny because we've kind of followed each other through life. She's from Houston as well, and then we both found ourselves in Colorado at around the same time. But I want to give her credit for turning me on to this book. But I read this book probably 6-7 years ago. It's like when it first came out, and so it's been a while. And I think just too with my field of expertise, right? Like my career, I spend a lot of time reading sex education books over here for work. So yeah, I don't remember who specifically turned me on. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was Jackie. Give her credit for that one, but I'm not positive. But I do remember reading it and just being like, it was like this huge permission slip to be myself and to understand myself better, and realize that, she talks a lot about like brakes and accelerators. There are things that slam a brake on our desire, and then some things that accelerate, and that's different for everybody. And it can be, I mean, we've talked about this before too, is even things that your partner says to you. Like we did a speed round a while back on this of, bite me might really turn somebody on, might be an accelerator for somebody. But if that triggers you, or, just is not something that you desire, that can be a pretty intense break on your desire. And so knowing those is really a huge permission slip too, to realize that there are things, even little things that can be said that can all of a sudden just like dry you up.
Right. Like, but even like discovering those still takes a long time to do. I feel it's like it takes a really, like when we did the 20s versus 30s, it was just like, taking that almost decade to like figure out, okay, now we know who we are, what we like. And so it does take a long time, different partners sometimes, or, to figure out what's going to get you going and what doesn't get you going.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, is that I feel like it changes too with partners, because depending on the relationship and intimacy that you have with somebody and just like the vibe you have with them, there's something that they could say that would totally turn you on, that if somebody else, your next partner said to you, that would just have the complete opposite reaction too.
Mm-hmm.
So like understand that it may change over time as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, and also, yeah, different exposure, right? And the different partner expose you to different things. So, yeah. So one partner might not say those things, but another partner would. So just like trying out different things with different partners sometimes, and not recommending like going all out and trying somebody every day. But if you want to, that's fine. That's your prerogative. Trying to explore your boundaries, but still, like, yeah, it just, I don't know. It would be hard to understand, I guess, who you are sexually without maybe exploring a little bit with either different partners or with the same partner, but actually, like, yeah, giving yourself, I guess, permission to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's, if that's something that you're really interested in, giving yourself permission to be okay with having some exploration in your life and trying out new things. I think, especially, I feel like sometimes in a long-term partnership, it can feel scary to say like, hey, I want to try some new things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the beauty about sexual connection, is that when you do start to communicate with each other about sex, it just deepens your relationship so much more and creates such a more intense bond with each other that carries over into daily life as well. So, we like to think of sex as this like purely physical pleasure thing, but the reason that I know I focus a lot on it in my work is because sex does hold a lot of our deep inner workings and how we view ourselves in the world. So being able to explore with your partner is can be really beneficial.
How important do you think it is to be on the same page sexually in a relationship? I feel like you can I feel like it's not a deal breaker if like you like one thing and a partner likes another thing. I think like you can, as long as you're open and can come together on things.
Yeah, I think communication about it is probably more important than anything else. And not judging each other for what the other person wants, and then finding ways to compromise. If there's something, I actually just had this conversation the other day with somebody about pleasure, and specifically like oral sex, and partners who don't want to be given to, because that I think is actually pretty common, where whether male or female, like having somebody perform oral sex on you can feel very vulnerable, because all of a sudden now you have to be like fully present, and there's, there can be pressure to like orgasm or put on a show for your partner. And for a lot of people, it can feel easier to give than to receive.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about how important it is actually for each partner to be able to feel like they're also giving. So I think that that's where communication is a big one, and figuring out like, why do you not want to try something? And if it's just, like a hard no on something, accepting, loving, and understanding the other person. So communication and no judgment is a huge part, right?
Mm-hmm.
That,
All right. So we were talking about this, Red Hot Reads.
yeah.
Another turn on. We were talking about books, like sexy books, and how they can get you going. And but when we always talk about, like, in college, how I used to read Red Hot Reads to everyone. So we wanted to bring that back. So but I wanted to do it with a twist. So I wanted to read the Red Hot Read, but then we just kind of stop and comment on things that we like hear or that either the problematic or maybe not problematic or just funny or something like that. So I'm excited about this.
I'm so excited to commentate over here.
Because I feel like when I read it, yeah, it was super intense, but like we never really thought about the things that, really thought about it in a way. But I feel like now with us doing this, like we kind of think about it a little bit more, what they're writing and what they're saying. And I think it'd be funny to comment on things. So like some things that maybe are problematic or not so problematic or just funny.
I love it. I'm so excited.
All right. So this red hot read is called Breaking All the Rules by Macy Yates. So it's just a little excerpt. So I'm going to start reading it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's Breaking All the Rules, little steamy erotica excerpt. All right. So he reached to the left and opened up her bedside drawer, and a somewhat horrifying thought occurred to her. Oh, wait, she said, and it was too late. Oh, he said. He took out the 2 stray condoms that were left over from when she actually had a man living here and kept his eyes on her very blue, very realistically shaped vibrator. It's a personal massager, she says. Uh-huh. You can buy a whole set, lots of different body parts, options, hands, etc. Though this one might be perfect for getting in that hard to reach place between my shoulder blades. I believe you, he said, but I would like to investigate further. His eyes met hers. Do I have your permission? What? Toys are meant to be played with, Grace. I have to stop right there. I think that's funny. First of all, she was ashamed of her vibrator, which she...
What woman does not have a vibrator in her nightstand, though?
Right.
Come on. Condoms and vibrators are in every woman's nightstand, I feel like.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I highly recommend reach out to us because we have some wonderful recommendations.
I don't even think then, like, it was probably not large enough to actually reach between her shoulder blades, but okay. But I'm down for him saying toys are meant to be played with, Grace. All right. Keep going. Her heart hammered hard and steady, heat flooding her face. Well, so much for keeping this private, but suddenly she didn't want to. Suddenly, it was an embarrassment flooding her with heat. I would have thought some guys would be intimidated by bringing another penis into the bedroom. That little thing, he asked, and admittedly, it was smaller than he was. Nah. Sure, I guess. Whatever makes you happy. I intend to make you happy, he said. He took the blue phallus out of the drawer and her stomach tightened. She didn't know why seeing him hold it was hot, but it was. She'd given up questioning this thing with him. She was ready to just embrace it. She was having a sexual... Okay.
I've got something to say. Can we, kill the idea that, toys don't belong in relationships? Toys just enhance everything. They're fun for everybody. Yeah. Let's forget about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what got this started or idea started about vibrators are a replacement for a penis or something, or replacements or something. I think I think it takes a lot of thinking to be like, they just enhance what, the pleasure or what's happening around you. So just they don't replace anything.
All right.
It's just very funny. All right. Back to it. She was having a sexual awakening at 30. 12 years and 2 partners after her virginity had been lost. That's very little, but okay. She did not have a 20s like some of us did. Okay. She left to claim it was because she knew herself better now, but that wasn't it at all, because if she hadn't ended up switching phones with him, they wouldn't be here. She would have found another guy similar to her exes, she was sure. Another soft, well-dressed, well-spoken, business-oriented type. Okay, I want to stop right there. Soft. I don't like that. Soft. I guess, they're just not dominant, I guess.
Yeah, it's a weird way to describe somebody. Because you can be in touch with your feminine and also be a strong masculine. So
Right. So it's like they're soft, but they're business oriented. Interesting. Okay.
yeah, weird description
Problematic
here.
to me. All right. It would have never occurred to her that someone so rough, so different from her, would be the man who lit her fire higher than anyone who'd come before him. Do you know what you're doing with that thing? She asked the question, coming out breathless and thin. A smile curved his lips. I think I can figure it out. Open up for me. She opened up her mouth and he pressed the tip of the toy to her bottom lip. She curled her tongue around the head and he groaned, pushing it in further. She closed her lips around it and he pushed it in slowly, gently, then pulled it back out. You're damn good at that, he said, drawing it gently out of her mouth. Need to make sure it's good and wet for you. His eyes never left hers, the deep, suggestive timbre of his voice shivering through her. I'm good and wet for you, she said. He swallowed hard and his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. Lick it for me. That was like one of those dirty things that we talked about. It was so absurd and so dirty, and she did it because it turned her on to watch his face as she ran her tongue over the soft rubber. He pulled the toy away from her and then moved it down between her thighs, sliding it in over her sensitive bundle of nerves and the rippled surface, sending a flood sensation through her. Then he twisted the base, turning it on, the addition of gentle vibration, nearly sending her over the edge. That quick,
I
huh?
love that, like, in every book, like we talk about the clit as a sensitive bundle of nerves, and
Yeah.
like that in itself just like touched a vibrator or like the first like lick on the clit, and all of a sudden they're like close to an orgasm.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I was like, well, this is why people don't know where things are, because it's a gentle bundle of nerves, or wherever. It's just like a general like place. But yeah, also like just all of a sudden it's just like it gently turns on, and she's just like sent over the edge already. Like
this is why we all think that we take too long to orgasm, because books and movies and everything tell us that it just happens quickly. I'm like, no, that's not how it works for most women.
And that's what we were just talking about. Like, it's just like, it's a mental thing. It's like, it takes a little bit of time, other than just like a gentle slide against her gentle, what is it? Gentle nerves, bundle of nerves.
Oh my gosh.
They have so many different names for it too. It's just really funny to go through like sex books, and like they're different names for the vagina or the clit or or the labia or whatever it is, like all of that anatomy. It's just they so many different words for it.
But nobody actually calls it by like the proper terms. Like there's all kinds of different words, but I guess like as a pelvic floor PT, I'm kind of like, why don't we just call it what it is?
Right.
I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Let's do it. She used this alone, sure, but it was different with Zach controlling the movements. She couldn't anticipate what would happen next, where he would move, if he would apply pressure or take some away. More, he asked. She bit her lip and nodded, and he twisted the base again, amping up the speed and intensity. He slid it through her slick folds before dipping the tip inside. She gasped, gripping his arm as he pushed the vibrator in deep. So wet, he said. You're ready for me, aren't you? Yes, she said. Not yet, he said. Again, what do we say? Slick folds.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. So what are we? Slick folds? Is that the labia, right? Or,
yeah, that
okay.
labia.
Okay. Her slick folds. Okay. He pushed the vibrator further inside of her and then leaned in and ran his tongue over her clit. She bucked against him, and he moved the toy and his tongue in rhythm together, pushing her up over the edge. Her orgasm crashed through her body, her internal muscles squeezing tight, and she forked her fingers through his hair, tugging hard, forcing his head down harder between her thighs as she rode out her orgasm. He chuckled and pulled away from her, vibrator still in hand. Now it's my turn, he said. Put the condom on me. First of all, it's so hard to put a condom on anybody, I feel. So I would have a problem with this. It would just go so unsexy. But again, yeah, this is another one. Her orgasm crashed through her. So intense.
Wow. I know. So weird. But it is funny because like, you know, when you get into these books and stuff, there's so much emphasis on like the wet ass pussy. And then, you know, we did that episode a few episodes back on wet ass pussy and how in day-to-day culture it's just so like having a song talking about wet ass pussies was like so taboo and very controversial, and people had these high emotions. But then you read one of these books and there's so much emphasis on having a wet ass pussy and that like pleasing the guy and putting him on. And it's so interesting, the contradiction of that, because I feel like the song is very empowering to women. Like, yeah, you can, you know, independent woman. And then in the books, it's always like a turn on for the guy.
Well, turn on for the guy, but also the innocent young or like the innocent, like, I don't know what sex is person, right? But yeah, it's just like, that's, I don't, we like to, I guess we have to put ourselves in her position, and that's somehow sexy, is that she just doesn't know, you know, like she's just never felt this way before, you know, or felt this like crazy orgasm and the whatever 3 guys she was in relationships with. It just, I don't know why that's so problematic to me in a way too.
Well, because I mean, the reality is, and I don't like, we don't know the backstory to this, so, but it sounds like maybe the first time that they're like, you know, new relationship or new love affair going on, does it ever like there are awkward moments, and especially I think for a lot of women in those early stages, you can get like pretty swept up in the passion and everything. But every one of us is like a little bit in the back of our heads, especially if she's only been with like 2 other partners and they're very different. She's got to be in her head and like, I don't know, either that or she's like way confident, but you know, the book doesn't, that excerpt didn't make it seem like
No, her thinking behind everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, the orgasm crashed through her. He chuckled and pulled away from her. The vibrator still in hand. Now it's my turn. Put the condom on me. She sat up and tore the condom open, wrapping her hand around his thick arousal and squeezing gently before rolling the latex on. He put the head of the vibrator on her clit, the base resting on her stomach, and then entered her slowly. The combination of Zach and the vibrations almost enough to make her come again, not 2 minutes after she already had. It was nearly too much. He thrust hard into her, pushing the head of the rubber toy roughly against her. She turned her head into the shoulder and bit him hard, trying to hold back the flood of a near unendurable pleasure that was rioting through her. Zach, she whispered. Zach. That's it, Gracie, he said. No one had ever called her that. No one but him. Come for me, baby. And no one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one. Only Zach. The ferocity of his movements increased, all control lost completely, and then she let go of her, swallowed by pleasure, almost overwhelmed by the release that tore its way through her body. A short, low growl escaped Zach's lips as he came hard, his whole body shaking as his orgasm hit home, his erection pulsing inside of her. He collapsed against her, breathing heavily, the vibrator still buzzing between their bodies. He laughed, rubbing his sweat-slicked forehead against her cheek before kissing her lightly. Then he rolled to the side and his arm flung around her face. Dear Lord, he said, you need some kind of disclaimer.
All right. Can I just say that for the majority of women, it takes a minute to like build back up again. And also, like after you have an orgasm, again, you know, like every woman's different, everybody's different. But after an orgasm, the female body tends to be like crazy sensitive. So like adding, like going from vibrator on clit to orgasm and then like same thing right back to it could potentially be like painful and uncomfortable and not like immediately goes into another orgasm.
Right. 2 minutes later.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you feel like that's how your body should be, let me remind you that most women's bodies are not
like that.
Yeah. Like to be touched nearby, but not like on the clit for a little bit, and can be very sensitive. So,
but yeah, just to say that's like, 30 seconds later, she has another orgasm and another. So the first one wasn't really an orgasm then. Like she just thought it was or something. I don't know. Like it just like happened such in like quick successions. And it's just like, it's just like it tears through her body and it's just so adorable, the pleasure. It's just like way too dramatic.
Not realistic. Not realistic. Oh my gosh. Well, that was fun. I feel like I needed to have like some really bad beer and drinking that college school style while listening to you. I feel like you used to be like out on the balcony. And
I used to be on a stage pretty much, like high elevated from everybody. Reading it out loud.
Memories. All right. Well, that was fun. Let me know, let us know if you like the Red Hot Reads and what you want to hear from us. And we'll be back next week. I think we're going to dive into love and relationships and, talking life. So let us know what you want to hear, what you like, what you don't like, kind of like a good partnership, good sexual relationship. We like to hear what your turn-offs, turn-ons are too for this podcast. So let us know.
All right. Have a good day.